Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Wait Till Monday podcast. I have a guest with me today. Her name is Makayla, and I'll introduce herself a little more in just a second. But first, I just want to introduce the topic. So, both of us actually ran a half marathon last year, and so I thought it'd be a good idea to get her on the podcast and have an episode about just kind of what we went through and our different processes through the race and just discuss how it went for us.
Hi, Mom.
Introducing Makayla, so we know each other from NC State. We cheered together and we've became the best of friends since then. So yeah, that's how we met. And Makayla, thank you for being on this episode. I'll turn it over to you if you want to introduce yourself a little more.
Hello, Kirsten, and everyone else listening. Thanks for having me today. I ran my half marathon in October, as you mentioned, and I'm very excited to discuss it today.
Yes, so and I ran mine in like November. So we were kind of training at the same time, but she wrapped up before me. So first, I just want to bring it all the way back to kind of how we got into this. So like I said, we were athletes before and we were cheerleaders, and then we both kind of found ourselves the need or like looking for something else we needed a little bit. And then it was actually February of 2023. It actually just passed on my memories where Makayla was like, let's do a 5K together. And I was like, you know what? Why not? I always kind of like found comfort in running beforehand, and I never really took it into like racing. I always kind of just did miles for fun. And Makayla was like, let's do a 5K together. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. And I feel like that really kind of sparked it for both of us. And then it wasn't until later on where Makayla was like, I'm actually going to do a half marathon. And at first, I was like, that is so great for you. I'm going to sit this one out. But also, my cousin from home, who is a huge runner, as soon as she saw me do a 5K, she was like, oh, so you're signing up for the Philly half? And I was like, no, I'm not. But honestly, as we can see, I did. But yeah, I just wanted to start there. That 5K really is what kind of started the foundation of everything. And then Makayla though, was the first one to take those first steps into training process. So Makayla, if you just want to explain, how did the training process go for you overall? Were there bad days, good days you didn't want to get up? And if so, how did you have the courage to get up and do all the training?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I think one thing that I realized after finishing with athletics is that I kind of needed a goal or something to push me to work out and have that as a part of my life, because it is something that I enjoy, but it can be challenging to find the discipline when you don't necessarily have scheduled practices. So I think that with the 5K, that started where, okay, I have this to train for, I have to be ready by this date. Let me run a little bit, have some type of schedule, some type of organized schedule. And then after we finished the 5K, I fell into, again, kind of just a rut with exercise. I wasn't working out like I wanted to. And so I figured that a half marathon would be a nice leap where there's a 14-week program through the Nike Run Club app, had a scheduled 14 weeks. And essentially when I went into it, I wasn't trying to be too hard on myself because I feel like I have a lot of stress. And one of the reasons why I enjoy running is it's kind of a relief from that. And so my biggest goal was really just to finish every run. There were 5 runs a week. I just wanted to do each one of them. If I had to cut it short, that was okay. If I had to take a super long time to finish it, that was okay. If I literally started it and just walked the entire thing, that was okay. I was really trying not to be too hard on myself, but I just wanted to find the discipline to complete every run. And I think that did contribute to like feeling successful on run, like on the actual race day. So yeah, there were definitely rough days. Not every day was super easy and I wanted to get up and run. I definitely realized that it was easiest for me to do it first thing in the morning. And I think that's pretty important, is kind of finding what works for your schedule when you're the most motivated. I found that when I said, oh, I'm going to run at night, because initially I was thinking, since practice with cheer, we had that at night. So I thought that, transitioning to nightly runs would be kind of the same as with cheer, if that makes sense, in scheduling
Yeah.
wise. But I quickly realized that whenever I would plan to do a nightly run, it made it easier for me to like kind of tell myself I wasn't going to do it, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yep.
Whereas when I just got up and ran, it started my day off well. I already accomplished that task, and yeah.
Well, I will definitely say I feel like you're a lot more disciplined than me, and you set this goal for yourself, and even if it was just to get up and complete the run, whether even if you started walking halfway through or whatever. So the training process for me kind of overall, I feel like I would say that I did the runs for the most part. I also used the Nike running app again. Makayla showed it to me, so I started using it. And I will shout out that app really quick because it does really do a great job of like teaching you or like just guiding you. And that's kind of like Michaela was saying, as an athlete who, was given a schedule, like this is when you're going to work out, this is when you're going to run. This was very similar to that, as in like this is what you're going to do type of deal, which I feel like we were both kind of like yearning for that again, which we found within the Nike running app. But it is different when you don't actually have a coach on you. But this is where I say I think that you're more disciplined than me because I found myself some days since I was like my own coach at that point. I would find myself being like, "Oh, it's okay. Like I can skip this." And then but it's like, you skip one day, then you end up skipping two. And I would kind of get in this cycle where I would like get mad at myself for skipping, or I would be like if it was like Wednesday and let's say I had 4 runs left and I was like, "Oh, well, instead of doing it now, like I'll just do it the rest of the week." But then something comes up on Saturday. Now I'm back a week. So I got into that quite a few times, which is probably like the hardest part was just like getting mad at myself for letting myself be lazy like that. But then I feel like you can probably relate to this too, though. The times that maybe were harder to get up, once we did get up and like I did complete that run, I felt like so great. And I just always kept reminding myself, like, remember this feeling after the run. Like, you feel great. Like, you can get up and you will feel so good after this run. So, like, get up and do it. That's how I would try to keep myself motivated.
Yeah, and I know one big thing that I kind of tell myself, not only just in with the running in this scenario, but overall is don't let a slip turn into a slide. So like it's
Ooh,
okay if you have a day where you don't run and to not beat yourself up over it, but don't let that turn into, a snowball effect where you go for a week without running. Instead, it's okay to have 1 or 2 days, but yeah, try to get
yes.
back in.
I like that. That probably would have done me some good justice when I was running. Because at first I was really hard on myself, like completing the runs like as they were and stuff. And I think I like FaceTime you one time. We were just like catching up. And I remember you mentioning too, like just finish what you can, like like how you were saying, if you can't finish all the miles, like because the app even says that, like if you have to cut it short, then cut it short. Like there doesn't have to be all this guilt with training and setting yourself up on these pedestals. Like anything is better than nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Coach Bennett, who is the guy who like directs you through runs.
He's so good though. Like shout out Coach
So good.
Bennett because
I
I
know.
loved hearing his voice through my headphones.
Yeah, and I think it is fun too. One thing that I wanted to mention was it's kind of nice, especially if you are someone who enjoys running slow or not slow, running on your own. So for me, I enjoy running on my own because I am a slow runner and I like going at my little pace of whatever I want to do that day. So it's nice kind of having someone, but then also not feeling the pressure of like, I have to match the pace of this running group, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
that's
that's
true.
definitely one reason I think I really liked the Nike Run app and Coach Bennett.
Yeah. Okay, so were there or did you ever like come to a point where any days in your training where you asked yourself like, why am I doing this?
Yes, absolutely. But I think that's natural. I think that's natural in any hard challenge that you take on where you're like, what in the world did I sign up for? Why am I doing this? Yeah. But I think that for me, going back to like the small accomplishments helped a lot because it didn't necessarily have to be like, I finished the longest run ever, I did the fastest pace ever, or whatever. Just like you said, like I finished that run, it felt good. I got outside, I, am taking care of my body. Like the small things really helped going in times where I was like, this is hard. Why am I doing this? There's, no requirement.
Right, yeah. And I think that yeah, I would say the same thing, kind of like just there's no requirement thing. Like I also would refer to myself as like I'm doing this because I can, because there are people out there who they can't get up and they can't even go for a walk or enjoy a run. So I would always turn it to myself and be like, don't take advantage of or don't take granted. What was
Yeah,
it?
take for granted.
Yeah, like take granted of what you can do because not everyone can, like I said, get up and even walk.
Yes, that's definitely I mean, I think especially with me because I work just as background if you don't know, I work with elderly people. And so a lot of them like they can't even get up from like going to the bathroom sometimes, you know?
Yeah,
And so I think for me it's definitely also like it is a privilege to be able to
privilege.
not only walk but like to be able to run and to be able to do these long runs. I think that it really is a testament to how much your body does for you. And I think that any type of exercise is a really great way of kind of reciprocating that love for yourself, you know?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's you could say too, yeah, it's like an act of like self-love. And
Yeah.
I feel like I probably talked about something about self-love in a different like episode before, but it's like when I was kind of talking about discipline that one time too, it's like if you care about yourself, then you're going to do things, to take care of yourself. Like discipline, I read it one time. It was like discipline is like the highest form of self-love you can do because
Yes.
it's like literally giving back to yourself, and like,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like taking care of your future self in a way,
right.
like
Yeah.
run now so that you can later.
Yeah, so that you can at least walk later.
Right.
Okay, so something else I kind of want to focus on. I kind of said it in the beginning too, but just was like how we found motivation again, because I feel like obviously we both were, athletes our whole life. And once college stops, it's just like, especially for cheerleaders, there isn't much place to go afterwards unless you kind of crawl back into All-Star again, or you do like a professional team, which most of the times is more of like dancing. But anyways, most of the times you're all of the time actually probably your cheerleaders careers peak at college, like that is kind of the end point. So I feel like both of us afterwards were kind of losing our identity a little bit because we have been associated with like being a cheerleader so much and being an athlete. So it was really, I know it took like a huge toll on me because I was like kind of like I don't know what to do with myself anymore, and kind of taking the next step and finding something. Like I really wanted to do Pilates and maybe become like a Pilates girl, but that was like really expensive. I guess what I'm just trying to say though is like kind of the gift we found in this whole like training process again. Like the title of this is, Mastering the Miles and Rediscovering Motivation, but it's really I feel like what happened like before we even knew it, we did that 5K, and then we all, we're next thing you know are downloading the Nike running app and training for this again. And it was like bringing the light back to what we had once. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like for cheer and for that type of physical activity to be such a big part of our lives for so long, and then to kind of, I mean, like you said, completely drop off and not have anything was definitely a shock in not only like, I mean, yeah, just like you said, it's part of your physical, it's also part of your like social identity. And,
Mm.
so yeah, I think running kind of, I mean, it's never going to fill those things,
Right,
but
right.
I mean, maybe the physical, but
Yeah. And I think too, like how you were, like from a social aspect as well, we kind of like found, like we grew up in like the cheer community and like those were our people. But I guess at this point, what I'm trying to say is anyone that's listening that might be going through the same thing and trying to find something. I know like I joined like some running like Facebook groups, and that was kind of like a new community to enter to also kind of like replace the void. I don't want to say like replace, but or fill the void, but there are other things like you can move on from what you were doing and find that joy again, but in something else in a new way. That makes sense.
yeah.
Again. Okay, and so then I guess we talked about training, we talked about how we found the motivation again. So I guess now it's just time to talk about the race itself. So your race, if you want to actually, I'll just give it the mic to you. You want to talk about your race, where it was, and what went through your head, your just overall race day experience.
Yeah, I would say overall, I had a great race day experience. I would not have changed anything. It was in Wilmington, North Carolina, so the trail was pretty flat and pretty breezy. And it was in October, so it was a really nice temperature. And my parents came, and my boyfriend came, and it was definitely a smaller race. So I know you did like the Philly half, which is, massive. Mine was not massive. It was probably 40 people.
Oh wow, I thought it was a little more than that.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I
But I
would say
mean, that's
probably
fine. Obviously, I'm not saying it like, oh. Okay, anyway.
that sucks. Yeah, no, but it was probably about 40 people running it, and yeah, it was great. I mean, I feel like it wasn't a lot of people there were, or I shouldn't say a lot, but there were several people who were training for a marathon, like it was part of their marathon training. So it felt really low stakes, and everybody was supporting each other, and there were times where you had to like pass it or like, turn around. So
Mm.
everybody was like talking and like cheering each other on. And yeah, it was a really great experience.
Yeah. So, okay, did you find yourself getting like just referring back to obviously cheer, but the day of the race, did you find yourself getting like those butterflies again? like you did before competing?
I would say I got nervous the night before. Yeah. I got nervous the night before, just like, I don't know. Yeah, I was just, but I wouldn't say it was because I think cheer is a lot of stress immediately before going on. That's the way it was
That's
for
true.
me. But with this, it was not that. I think maybe because the stakes were lower, like,
Yeah, you're not like flipping your body, you're throwing it
right,
in.
right. And I didn't really have any like I said, I was really just doing it for fun. So I wasn't like, I need to finish in a certain amount of
Mm.
time, gotta like hit my PR, whatever, whatever. I was really just there to have a good time, honestly. And yeah, so I wouldn't say I got too nervous. And the morning of, I mean, maybe a little bit, but yeah, not too much. And once I started running, it was fine.
Yeah.
Did
Um,
you?
I did, yeah. So also too, something you mentioned that I want to discuss too, but I'm saying it out loud so I remember about like how I think that is one way we both kind of took the races separately. I know you said you were like running to get it done. I gave myself like a time sort of deal, but so I want to touch on that again, but I was just saying it out loud. But before we get into that, so yeah, so my overall kind of race experience, so yes, I did get, I guess you are right. It wasn't like the same thing as cheer because that type of anxiety is just out of the roof sort of deal. But I did get like butterflies again, but in like the calmest way. Like I feel like building up to the race, everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, how are you gonna run like, like 13.1 miles?" But like in to me, I'm just like I'm just gonna keep moving my legs. Like just one foot after the other. That's exactly
Ah,
how I'm gonna do it actually. But yeah, and so yeah, like Makayla said, I did the Philly half marathon and that was I don't even know how many people, a lot. It was so many people, but luckily I had my cousin with me and she really guided me through the whole thing. We stuck together. I didn't use the Nike app for the race. Did you use do you
I
use it for the race?
did. Yeah.
So honestly, I probably would have, but my cousin forgot her headphones in the car, and I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not gonna put mine in if she doesn't have hers." But then I just kind of bought out, and we just kept up with each other. But yeah, I think the race overall though, it was fun and like you were saying how, people are cheering on the side. Like we ran through all of Philly. Like I don't really know how to explain it. I just know we literally ran that city. And yeah, there was so many people like cheering on the sides and there's posters everywhere. My came to see me, my mom, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, my brother, but they didn't get to see us cross the finish line because they like got lost in the bus or whatever. I don't know. But they were there at the end and we were
Yeah.
able to take pictures and celebrate and it was just like such a nice feeling and a huge accomplishment, like low key talking about it right now. I'm getting a little excited and I'm like, maybe I should do it again. I don't know. It is just a lot of joy though, and it's so like rewarding because I mean, we trained for 14 weeks, putting on in all that work. We showed up every day. We put on our shoes every day. We chose to do that. So it was really rewarding and it was just a fun day. In Philly too, we had like the expo the day before. So we got to go, me and my cousin, and get our bib and like the bag that they had for us and the shirt. So all of that was really exciting too. And then of course the medal at the end was a big sleigh. Even though the Philly half ran out of medals, which is yeah, was actually crazy. So they had to like ship them out. But I was so happy I got mine. Okay, speaking of the race, so I guess with this next question I have, we can kind of like take it two different ways. So the next question is what thoughts went through your head during the race? So I know like specifically you were saying you were, running the race to complete it. So just kind of explain what went through your head during the race as you were going.
Yeah. So honestly, looking back, I think it was no thoughts, just vibes. Like
I love that.
I reflecting back, like I don't remember exactly how I felt, but I
Hmm.
do remember feeling like I wasn't dying at any point of
Oh,
and
that's great.
I was running at like a pretty solid pace. So I was like, okay, like maybe that training did pay off,
Right. Yeah.
And of course, like I said, I did it with the Run Club app. So like Coach Bennett was talking to me throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was just kind of hanging out and just yeah. I will say that one goal that I did have was that I wanted to run the whole thing. That was one
Yeah.
thing. I did not want to walk. So that was
Did
one
that
thing.
go good?
Yes. You said what?
Yes. I said, did that go good?
Yeah, I did. I
You
didn't
ran the
I
whole thing, right? Okay, that's what I thought.
did, yeah.
Claps to that. And it's hard because I mean, okay, so was there like a turning point in miles where you were like, oh man, or no?
Like, oh man, bad?
Kind
Or
of. So
like
like, okay, like so for me, I remember like mile 8. I was like, I still got 5 miles left in this bitch. Like
Those are
that
the
sort of
hardest
deal.
ones where you're like 7 and 8, I feel like
Yes.
yeah, they're rough because it's like you've already been running, you're tired, and you still have a lot left. I felt that way a lot when I was training, but I wouldn't say during the race I was just kind of chugging along. I don't think I was really keeping track of how far I was.
Oh, okay,
Um,
you were just going.
I was just going again, just vibes. Like,
Yeah. The ending will come when it comes.
yeah, it will.
Like training and in the race too, I would find myself like I would tell myself like, don't look at your watch. Don't look at your watch until you hear like Coach Bennett. And then I'd be like, I never like look at my watch. I'm like, no. Like I'm like trying to see how much I have left. I'm like, just
Yeah.
listen. Just listen for the voice. Just wait for the mile marker.
I know. I always tell myself, I'm like, he's not gonna forget you. Like,
Right.
he's coming. It's coming at some point.
Yeah, yeah. I would say so honestly, I would say too, I was pretty much vibing through the race too. I did have my cousin who's I mean, she's done like 4 marathons at this point, so she is a big runner. But I told her like in the beginning, so I told her I just wanted to beat 2.5 hours. And so she like did some calculations and was like, oh, then we need to stay at like this pace. And honestly, we were like booking it like faster than that. I ended up finishing at like 2:11, I think, which so was a lot faster than I even plan. I would say the same thing, honestly, mostly just like vibes and like I said, just keeping my legs moving one step at a time. I was like, also when you're running, you get to that point where your legs are just like numb. So any movement down there,
Yeah.
it's just happening at that point. Like I can't stop it. I can't speed it up. It's just happening. I feel like I
Yeah.
got like that. So I guess what are some things that you would say you got out of this experience as a whole? Looking back now, I know it's been like months for both of us now, but what are some things you got out of it?
So I think we've kind of touched on a lot of things, I'll say. But first, it definitely helped me physically, of
Hmm.
course, back into the swing of exercise. I also think, as you mentioned, just the sense of accomplishment and not even just like, of course, accomplishing the race, but also accomplishing like each week. And I ought to go back to the race, but I actually feel like I was pretty emotional when I finished the training program. Like I remember
Mm.
run, like that was so like I think just because I'd been, working on it for so long and it's like the conclusion of a project before the big presentation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think just the sense of accomplishment. I also think that it helped me to refocus and practice that discipline because I know throughout undergrad, I had to be disciplined. I really had no other choice. When I had more free time and was less busy, I fell out of that and I found myself pushing things off and that type of thing. Not even just in exercise or whatever, but in just life in every aspect. So I feel like the running helped bring everything back together and kind of reinforce those habits. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Honestly, I would say the same thing as you, and I feel like we've kind of been just kind of mashing everything together this whole episode. But yeah, I mean, discipline and just getting back on track. I also too feel like I don't know if it's the same for you, but I was kind of like my mood, like it was obviously better, and I think this is like just a known biological like thing that obviously when you work out and you're like endorphins and stuff, found myself just in like better moods and overall just happier as a person. I don't know if you did as well.
Yeah, for sure. I also think it helped that you ran outside a lot, right?
I did, yes.
Because I know for me, like I also ran outside. So I think also just having that connection to nature helped me feel
Oh
better.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, yeah, it definitely helped me feel better
Yeah,
emotionally.
I would always try to spend my long runs along Lakeshore Drive, which is so beautiful and gorgeous. And I would purposely listen to like Chicago artists while I'm running. So like I literally this was the crazy experience I had to mention it. I was running along Lakeshore Drive and I had a Kanye West song on and he says something like my name lights up the Chicago skyline. And it was literally like as I was making this one turn and it was like the skyline, I was like, I
Oh
am
my
in a
goodness,
Hallmark movie. Like it was crazy. I
that's
did just want to mention that.
amazing.
Yes. So I guess moving forward now, because I have had people like since then, I don't know if you have too, but they're like, I want to run, I want to run. Like, what do you have for me? I'm like, oh, okay. Here's the app. That's what I did. But I did tell them too that I was like, me and Makayla are making an episode the way for that. So, anyways, what are some tips you would have for other people who are interested in running a half marathon?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing is to just do it.
Mm.
There's never going to be a perfect time where you're like, this is the perfect time to run a half marathon. Like you
Mm-hmm.
really just have to do it and commit. And yeah, I mean, literally, don't wait till Monday podcast. Like,
Like, yep,
don't wait
get
till
up,
Monday.
get up.
Just start
If it's
it.
Saturday, get up.
Because I remember that's the first run that I like when I started the program. It was a Saturday, and I was like, I'm gonna wait till tomorrow, so it's like a Sunday, da da da. And then I was like, why? Like, no. And I just got up and I did my first run on Saturday, and then I would yeah,
That was just the beginning.
and that was just the
But
beginning.
that is literally it. Like that is like the premise of why I literally have this podcast and want to make episodes because just if you want to do something, like you said, just do it. Obviously, like easier said than done, but you have the that control in your life, you know, like you can download the app, you can get up and you can just give it a try. And if you
Right,
hate it, you can stop. You know
right.
what I mean? Like,
And I feel like you can definitely tailor things as you go to what you need and your schedule. And, you know, if you only need to do 3 week
yes,
runs a week or whatever you need, I think the biggest thing is just starting. Like again, Coach Bennett,
my
one of his
God,
biggest things is that it's the hardest part is getting to the starting line. It's not necessarily
exactly.
the finish line. It's getting to the start and beginning that run, and then you'll be okay.
Yeah, because once you start, I mean, for me, and I think you as well, then it's like, I love that I'm doing this, you know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Until you get to mile 8, but no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I would say the same thing though. Just tips is like just ultimately to just believe in yourself and don't set expectations, especially if this is like your first run ever, your first race, or even just like new to running. Like, just have your expectation be that you're going to do it every day. And
Yes.
more of like not so much like even an expectation, but just like a commitment and like dedication to yourself.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me that helped was embracing the process. Yes, the end result is fun to look forward to, but I think that if you're not enjoying each individual run and recognizing the things that you're getting out of it, it's going to be a not as fun experience
Yeah.
versus have fun with it, realize what a blessing it is to do it. And yeah.
Yeah. Something else that kind of kept me motivated too. This can kind of be a tip. I don't know. But anyways, so like how Makayla was saying, there's 5 runs a week. If you choose to do the Nike running app, there's a lot of things out there. But if you do choose to do this, 2 of them were sprints, right? One of them was a distance, and then the other 2 were like short runs. Sort of, if I can remember off the top of my head, it was like kind of like that for the most part.
Because yeah, it's like 2 interval training runs and then 2 recovery runs and then the long run.
Yes. So some like a way that I would sort of like break it down is overall like I guess if I was looking at it like daily, like okay, this run today is 20 minutes of my life. You know, like 20 minutes of my day. Like I can get up and do this 20 minutes of my day. Or even like the race overall when people were just again asking me like about it and how I was going to do it and I was like, well, you know, it's 2.5 hours of my life. Like that's it. Like if you look at your life on a whole spectrum, 2.5 hours is not long at all. So that was just
Mhm.
another way I thought of it that maybe can help you think of it that way too,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that is good. I think another thing that I guess we've kind of touched on, but finding places that you enjoy running.
Oh, yes.
I
Yeah.
loved Lake Johnson. Yeah, ran there all the time. And I think that really added to the experience. Yeah, just more fun is having a place that you enjoy.
Yeah, that's true because if I like was on a treadmill all the time and like didn't even like, you know, tell myself to go outside or something or not do anything different than that, I would have hated it
Yeah,
'cause I got
I did.
beef with the treadmill in my
Yeah,
20s.
I treadmill runs, but yeah, they were, I would say, at least for my long runs, those kind of needed to be outside. Anytime I tried to do a long run on the treadmill, it was just not fun.
Yeah, something else. Sorry, things just keep popping up like as I, this is what happens. It's pop up as I speak about things. But something else too, that help is I know sometimes I would like give myself a destination to run to. So if I saw how long my run was going to be, so like we were going to one of Adam's family members' house one day and she lived like 6 miles and I think my run that day was like 7 or 8. And so I was like, oh, like I know we're going there later. Like I'll just run to her house and then loop around until I finish my miles. Different things up like that too. I know a girl that I coached because I ran from where I live to the high school that we coached at one time, and she was like, "Oh, me and my mom like love running from like our house to like they'll pick a cafe that's maybe like X amount of miles away, and then the end of their run they get to, you know, like sit down and enjoy the little cafe together. And then she's like, yeah,
Yeah.
we would Uber home or my dad would come get me. So, if you have that luxury, you can do
Yes,
that too.
yes, yes. Make sure to run in safe areas though.
Yes, don't go at night because I will say there was one night where I ran again Lakeshore Drive, but where I park and where I have to like the beginning and the end of the run kind of goes to like a park. I like sprinted the whole last mile. And this was the 12.4. Is that the last long run before the race, right? So
Yeah.
12.4. And that last point four or full mile, I like probably sprinted home because it's when
Jeez.
like it started getting darker out earlier and I didn't do my calculations right about when the sun would go down and the sun was down. And I
Oh,
thought people would be out there on Lakeshore Drive, but it was a Saturday night. Why would people be out there? So I had to book it back. But yeah, make sure you're doing it. And I was fine,
yeah.
obviously. But
Yeah, I think not to make this a downer, but definitely taking safety precautions is, I think, important, especially as a female, unfortunately.
hmm
But making sure, yeah, I ran with like pepper spray or an alarm because I was in the woods. But yeah,
Yeah, and I think with that too, like that is I mean something that is true and we have to point out, right? Like obviously we want to like talk about all of the highs of running and stuff, but this is also a reality. So definitely be safe. I think that's actually a huge and great tip is to know where you're running because as we see, like unfortunately women are, you know,
yeah. And just like use like fun, like running's fun, but it can turn really stressful really quickly under like or not, stressful circumstances, and you just don't want that. So
yeah.
kind of do have to think ahead and plan ahead.
Yeah. Well, let's, take this
Trying
back
to
up
see.
to a little bit of a higher note, even though we just had to be real for a second. Okay. One more last final question. How do I want to word this? Kind of like a thorns and roses type of things, but just say like the rose of what happened or like the rose of your experience. So like the highlight over everything, I guess what I'm trying to ask, like what was the best point, whether it was training, whether it was racing, what was like the best point for you when you kind of like looked around and you were like, I love this?
Oh, that's a good question. Do you want to answer first?
Of course. I definitely think that I just love being like around people and like in a community and just like-minded sort of situations. So I think like I want to say before my race started, when everyone was stretching and my cousin introduced me to her run club that she does. Shout out to Run 856. That's who they were. I think that was like my peak though, is just like the happiness and the joy of everyone. Like, I was meeting them and they were like, "Oh, is this your first race?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they were just so excited for me and just I love the support and when everybody's, being happy and exchanging like all good and great energy. I think that was definitely the peak for me where I was like, this is actually so fun. Like I really didn't think running could be that fun?
Yes, yes. Let's see. Oh, that's a good one. I would say that it's kind of one of the most vibrant, I guess, memories that comes back to me when I reflect on it.
Yeah.
My experience would definitely be, I think it was the 10-mile run specifically. And it was pouring rain at Lake Johnson. I was running. So all the trails were like muddy, and like the other people out there were trying to finish their runs. So we were all like, what are we doing right now?
Yeah.
I was like calling my mom, and she was looking at the weather because I was only like 4 miles in. So I still
Yeah. I remember that on your Snapchat.
had,
You were like,
it
all
was,
right, with me.
yeah, yeah. And it was just, yeah, it was like a massive just downpour, and I was soaking wet. My socks were just soaking wet for like 6 miles. But it was like fun. Like it was kind of like cheering a rain game where
Loved cheering
that's
rain games.
so fun. Yeah.
I think that, like you were just saying too, how you were passing other runners and you're
Hmm.
all just kind of like smiling. That was something else I really loved too. Like when I was at Lakeshore Drive and every runner I'd pass, I would like just smile. And it's just so
Yeah. It is fun. That
great.
camaraderie. Yeah, I agree. I liked Lake Johnson too because everybody kind of gets familiar with each other. Like you
Yes.
to know each other, and yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. I think that's, oh man, I forgot about like just that kind of just sparked a memory for me. Like when I was running on Lakeshore Drive and I would just pass people. And like you said, get to not know them, but you see them after a few runs and you're like, oh, you're running
Yeah.
again.
They're like, how long did you run for? I don't know if you
No,
do
I
that
didn't
or
really talk to many people. There was a lot of people out there, but
I would talk to people. I remember it was sad that, well, this is, I remember, back to what we were talking about earlier. I remember after one of my runs, this lady like approached me and she was like, how far did you go? I was like, oh, this far, but like, I was just running slow, whatever. She was like, I wish that I could run. Like, because
mm,
she was like an older woman. So she was like, I wish that I could run. That's when I was like, dang.
I know it's so sweet, and sometimes life is like, don't forget what you have. Like slept since I was
Right,
little.
right. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
true.
Don't take it for granted.
Exactly. Well,
So are you gonna do another one? Are you gonna do a marathon?
I don't think I will ever, and I can actually say this. I said it about the half, but I really don't think I will ever do a full. I think I'll do a full marathon. When I'm like, after I have kids, and I'm like, I need to show these kids who their mom is, and I'm like, here I go doing a full marathon. That's like the only time maybe I can see myself like doing it. Um,
I feel like I'm the opposite. I'm like, if I'm gonna run a marathon, like
if you
it
do
needs
it.
to be now.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, that'd be smart. Are you gonna do some more halves though?
I don't have any plans right now. Right now I am in the books. I don't have time, but
Hmm.
I would definitely be open to doing another half. And I'd be open to doing a marathon. I've also dabbled in the idea of doing like I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's like half of an Ironman,
Oh.
running a half marathon at the end. So you're like swimming half the. I mean, it's still
Oh.
like super intense, but
Yeah.
yeah, because I enjoy biking and swimming too. So
Yeah, that'd be fun, like a triathlon sort of
mhm,
deal. Maybe that's the next venture. We'll see.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. My brother said he wants to do well, after I did it, my brother said that he'll do it. Or after what was it? I think after my race, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it next year." So I'm like, "Come on, like let's do it." And so now if he does it, then I'll do it again. I don't know. Because it's like one of those things when you're done, you're just like, "All right, I could do this again."
right, yeah,
Even though you told yourself like at least me, I was like, I'm literally never doing this again. There was a point where I was so overrunning, but like you said, you just
yeah. I remember you were fed. You were.
I was like, after that 12.4, I was like,
I was
I'm
like, oh,
done.
our experiences are going a little different.
No, they did. I did. I got a little angry with running at one point, but I came out the trenches on top, okay?
You did, yeah. No, you had a great race.
Well, Makayla, thank you so much for coming on to Don't Wait Till Monday podcast and sharing your experience with running and your half marathon and training and getting me back into running. Because if it wasn't for that 5K, I probably would have just kept on doing my little miles around Garner where I lived at the time. And then, yeah, pushing me to do a half marathon as well.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun, kind of reminiscing, and
I know
yeah.
it has been. I'm getting a little bit of like spark back to actually sign up for another one this year. But if that comes, training don't start till August. So I do the Philly again. So I got a lot of time to think about it. But thank you for listening. If you tuned into this episode, if you do find yourself doing a half marathon, share it with me and Makayla. We would love to hear about it. We obviously are rooting for you and we say go for it. Find yourself needing a little bit of encouragement. Or if you found that this episode inspired you, let us know. Like I said, we'd love to know and we'd love to support you in any way that we can. Don't forget to follow Don't Wait Till Monday podcast on Instagram. And I will drop Makayla's at as well. If you want to follow her, let
Yes,
me put it in the description. Kayla, thank you for coming on. Loved having you.
for having
And thank you everyone for listening. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.